I mean, I know with the working out that I do, and with the as you're aging, especially for females after the age of 40 with their hormonal changes, it is hard to keep that muscle mass, right? And
Yes.
that's protein, as I mentioned in the beginning, is the building blocks for that, those tissues, your brain, your eyesight, everything, your bones, your muscles.
Yes.
So I'm sure that is why you came up with perfect aminos. But I wanted to talk about something else that I've noticed in the last year because of the spiked protein. And we have to be a little careful with how we say this, but what I've noticed with my clients and even my own family members is that the protein and fat metabolism has been compromised. And a lot of people are having a hard time breaking down protein. So that's why a perfect aminos has become a game changer for my family, for my clients, and then also for people that are afraid of eating too much protein. But why don't we start with talking about the importance of protein in the body for all of those reasons?
Sure. So, like you said, the body structure and tissues are built from protein. And if you look at balance studies, like the early balance studies that were done to determine how much protein someone needs, were done on college students over about a month, where they decided that the minimum that you needed was about let's say 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So if you just translate that into pounds, maybe a half a gram of protein per pound of body weight. Yeah. And now these are healthy college students. They're not growing infants. They're not aged people. They're not sick people. They're healthy people, and they didn't do the study very long. So the data is very, very poor. More recently, it looks like the person needs if you look at our body turnover, because these tissues recycle their proteins, like the inside lining of your gut, every 4 or 5 days, you get a new layer. Your lung turns over at a rate. Your collagen turns over at a rate. Your liver enzymes about every half hour have to be recreated because they get used up. So you need a supply of amino acids to make those proteins every day. And the estimate that I've heard, and this is from Jerry Lehman, he's a professor of nutritional biochemistry at the University of Minnesota, who's done a lot of work in this area, that the body needs about 300 grams of protein per day so that you can return over your tissues the way you're supposed to. Now, if you don't have it, you may not have enough pancreatic enzymes to digest your food. The layer of protein that lines your gut may turn over every 8 or 9 days rather than every 4 or 5 days, which means you're going to have a leaky gut because the membranes get frayed, they get damaged, and now they leak. Mitochondria are made out of proteins. Brain cells, neurons are made out of protein. Neurotransmitters are made out of the same thing. So that if you're short on the 300 grams, now the body can recycle old ones. So you don't have to eat 300 grams. But you got to have available 300 grams if you're going to optimize everything. Now, when you're young, you recycle very well. So you can see some young children eating crappy food that's low protein, and they still seem to grow and appear okay because they recycle very well. Every broken down one gets turned into a new one pretty well. Once you get past 35 or 40, you recycle not so well. And once you get into your 60s, you recycle terrible, which means if you're not, you need 300 and you're not recycling very well. And let's say you're only taking in 40 or 60 grams a day of protein, you're going to be short, like you don't have enough.
Right.
And then if you look at X-ray studies or MRI studies where you look at the muscle mass of someone at 20, let's say their arm, and then you look at them at 60, they've lost 30% of their lean body mass. As muscle, same thing with bone. You take an x-ray and look at bone density of a 20-year-old, and then you see what they look like when they're 60 years old. They've lost 20, 30% of their lean body mass, which includes bone. It includes organ tissue. So unless you're getting enough protein every day and more as you age, you're on the short end of that cycle and you're losing body mass and you're getting less muscle, less organ tissue, all that stuff. And I think a lot of aging is that. And that if you can keep up with your protein needs, you can do better. So if you took somebody, I intermittent fast. So I don't usually eat anything till about noon. And I have a meal at noon, which is an animal protein meal. So I might have 4 eggs. That's 28 grams of protein. Now, for my activity level, because I'm still training a lot, like I'm swimming, biking, running, stretching, weightlifting every week. And I need about 150 grams of protein a day for me to stay even. If I have 4 eggs for breakfast or for lunch with some other foods, some fruits or some vegetables, that's 28 toward 150. And then if at night I have let's say an 8-ounce chicken breast or a steak or a lamb chop, so a big portion. Animal proteins, every ounce of animal protein is approximately 7 grams of protein that we can use. So an 8-ounce steak would be 56 grams of protein. So 56 grams at dinner and 28 grams at breakfast is 74 grams of protein, right? Is that right? 56, 76, 86, 84 grams of protein. But I need 150. Now, where am I going to get it? So Perfect Amino is an amino acid blend, which just changed, I got into this because I got injured. So I tore a hamstring. And for almost a year, I could not get it to heal. I stretched it and heated it and colded it and chiropractored it and massaged it and injected it. And it wasn't stably healed. And if I would try to run hard, I could feel that if I pushed it, I was going to tear it. And it was driving me nuts. And then I started to mess around with some combinations of amino acids. And I found this blend, which we call Perfect Amino. So it's 8 essential amino acids in a very special ratio. And after 6 weeks on the product, my hamstring was healed. Mm-hmm. And I did Ironman Canada, which is a very hard race. It's a big lake swim with very cold water. And then it's a mountain bike ride where there's 2 passes where you climb 7 miles at a pretty significant grade. It's a very hard race. And then the marathon is very hilly. And I did my best time ever. Wow. And I noticed that when I added the Perfect Amino, I also gained about 12 pounds of lean body mass, and I did not look any different. My waist and my chest measured the same. But my internal organ volume, which I was low on, my bone mass increased because I was actually protein deficient and I wasn't eating enough animal proteins. And it made that up. And so I wrote an article in Triathlete Magazine of like, hey guys, look at this. And I got 3,000 people who wrote me back and said, I need that. Okay. So we started to manufacture it. And we started this company called Body Health a few years before, where we were making this metal detoxification product. And then we added Perfect Amino. And then we use this as it's remarkable that when you replenish protein in athletes, that they can heal even though the stresses are very high. Like for example, we worked with the Lance Armstrong Tour de France team. Now, they knew from racing many years that no matter what you did during the race, because they have a chef there, they have IV solutions there, and I didn't know about all the drugs and doping and all that stuff, but they knew that by the end of the 22 days of the tour, no matter what they did, they were all broken down. They all had tendonitis. They were tired. Their oxygen ability to use oxygen was down. And so one of the years we had the three big riders do perfect amino, 30 grams a day, 10 grams, 10 grams, 10 grams. And at the end of that tour, their performance was better than when they started, and they didn't have tendonitis, and their performance was actually improved by the volume that they were doing during the race. It didn't break down, and they were astounded that this could happen. In
Wow.
fact, the supplement was banned the next year at the tour. So we have a WADA classification now, and it's legal, but they were so amazed by what happened. So if I get back to my own thing, is what I realized is I need a high protein diet to keep up with my lifestyle. And if I'm only having 84 grams of protein a day and I need to have 150, I need another source of protein, which isn't full of tons of calories too. So Perfect Amino, turns out, has almost no calories. So if I take 2 scoops of the powder or 10 tablets, that's equal to 30 grams of animal protein.
So 1 gram, because each scoop is 5 grams, is that correct?
Correct.
So 5 grams is the equivalent of eating 30 grams of
15,
animal protein.
Of 15 grams of animal protein.
15 grams.
It's
okay.
a 3-to-1.
Gotcha. And
there's about 1 calorie in 5 grams of this, whereas 15 grams of protein probably has a couple hundred calories. So people who are calorie conscious, who worry about their weight, this is a real easy way to add protein without adding calories.